In Workshop 1, we'll be exploring the Gold Coast beaches and the surrounding architecture, highlighting the evolution of the rapid growth in the community.
We'll be focusing the activity on the Gold Coast architecture, followed by a sequence of relating choreography.
The learning outcomes include understanding the potential influence of sight on movement through the use of imagery and how it can be used in the making process.
We will aim to evoke movement through imagery that is inspired by the sight, creative text and multimedia sources.
Firstly, we're going to experiment with feeling the sand. As you move, think about the imprint left in the sand, how your foot can make a pattern, how your whole body's movement can be traced. Also consider how the sand reacts to your body's movement. As your foot pushes through the sand, try to envision the sand flicking up in correspondence. Moving through the sand brings a certain quality to your movement as it requires more resistance. Try to embody this also. For the next part, I want you to consider your beaches at Bundaberg. There is not a high-rise building in sight. Instead, a lot of lush greenery, much like the Gold Coast was before its rapid development. We are going to play with this idea through scooping the air and utilising the open spaces. Your movement should have a sense of freedom and flow, including ideas of reaching, twisting and curving. Next, we will further explore how we can move through the empty space. Before there was an influx of population and the growth of technology that produced infrastructure as large as we see today, the Gold Coast was mainly small beach homes on large lots of land. The beaches, much like today, are so vast in that it reaches from the north to the south, circulating the coastal scenery. Exploring this vastness through the use of travelling, think of how different body parts can move you along the floor. How are you embodying that space to ensure its vastness, extending, growing and spreading? Now I would like you to have a look at the Palm Beach Hotel in the collage. The two-storey hotel is very simplistic in its shape in comparison to the extremes of today. Its box-like infrastructure is what we will use to inspire this next portion of movement, whilst keeping the movement low in level to represent the height of these buildings. Think about how you can make these box-like structures with different body parts. How minimalistic can you make it? Now choose 2 counts from your experimentation that really appeals to you and show them to your group members. From here, you will collaborate to make a phrase of 8 counts based off these images from the 60s. Remember box-like movement, open spaces and vastness. The level of your movement should remain quite low during this count of 8 to embody this stage of the Gold Coast development. Here is an example of what our group came up with.
Keep this choreography in mind as we will now compare the modernisation of the Gold Coast by exploring elements that make this change so prominent. Observe the collage of the present-day city and allow the images to influence your movement choices. Now we will explore angular shapes. These shapes could be literal, conceptual, or abstract. Think about how modernised the high-rise buildings are and the interesting and unusual angles you see when you look along the coastline. This is a huge contrast to the box-like hotels we looked at in the 60s. Now let's explore height. How high can you fly? Consider how the high-rise buildings are constantly racing for the sky. You may explore jumping, reaching, and extending different body parts. Try and aim higher than the person next to you. Use the level of standing to your advantage when exploring this concept. Now let's move on to looking at the notion of 360 degrees. Move how your body responds when hearing this idea. There is no right or wrong. High-rise buildings these days have no evident front or back when looking at them. Many are circular, covered entirely in windows to capture the beautiful views from coastal to the hinterland. Lastly, we are going to investigate the intricacies of these modern established beaches and architecture. Think of staying nice and compact, Possibly experiment with movement on the spot for this one. Think about the details of the buildings. How detailed can you make your movements? The buildings are packed in tight to make sure no valuable coastal front is wasted. Right in the heart of the Gold Coast landscape, it is evident so much is happening in such a small space. We are going to use the same choreographic process as earlier, taking 2 counts of choreography that stood out to you. Bring that back to the group and collaboratively form 8 counts. Focusing on a modernistic touch, remember to include angles, height, 360-degree view, and intricacies and compact formations. In contrast to the earlier count of 8, focus on a height you associate with high-rise buildings. Here is an example of our final project developed with these ideas.
Now that we have our 2 contrasting choreographic variations, we're going to link them with the idea of destruction and rebuilding, because the Gold Coast is always modernising, with its real estate boom falling victim to the destruction of 60s beach homes with the development of high-rise buildings as monumental as QUT. Work with the qualities of a sustained collapse for destruction and a percussive energy to abruptly pull the body off the floor to symbolise a rapid growth. Using that idea, creatively think of a way to get off the floor and then to stand. This will be your transition step going into the modernised combination. Now that we have our link, put together your choreographic piece and consider how you should be spaced within your group. Could you represent that by being in close proximity when performing the compact landscapes of the modernised Gold Coast, or randomly distributed to showcase how the Gold Coast was developing during the 60s?
Beginning with the feet in first position facing the right back corner, we are going to slowly drop into a full plie with the lower body leaning off balanced to the right to catch you in a kneeling position. At the same time, your arms and upper body counterbalance to the left. Next, you spiral your arms across your body to the front as your back foot traces in a circular motion to bring you into a wide lunge. Body open to the front with arms in a vertical line, left leg parallel to right arm. Think about a wave knocking your hips off alignment as your upper body reacts in delay. Let your left foot swivel around, creating a nice arch pattern in the sand. Transferring your weight onto your bent leg whilst engaging your core and acting as a solid upright building. Circle your right leg, planting the foot in front of your body and leading with the left knee to push your body over into a strong plank position. This all is one swift motion before the feet drag to meet the hands and the body rapidly reacts, rolling up abruptly in a wave-like movement. Continuing on, the front arm reaches forcefully to the side, followed by the back arm to then contract the upper body as the arms draw together. From here, the arms scoop over the head to embody a crashing wave, transferring weight to the front leg as the back leg glides along the floor to lift in a bent angular kick performed in a swishing motion. Then we fall forwards into a lunge position as the body lags behind in a rippling motion. Repeat this choreography nice and slowly before building up speed and adding in dynamic beach-like qualities to your movements. Here is the full choreography at the intended tempo.
Throughout today's lesson, you would have had the opportunity to explore movement inspired by the beaches and architecture of the Gold Coast Through visual and poetic stimulus, you had the opportunity to choreograph and learn material based around these contrasting landscapes. You should now also have a greater understanding of the development of the rapid growth of these shorelines. We hope you have enjoyed rolling through the sand, collapsing like a building, and reaching for the skies. See you all in workshop 2.